1. Let me first start by giving some background information. This happened when I was in my last year of high school. My parents' house was in a semi-suburban area just outside a major US city. My parents' house was next door to a church that connected the highway to the street we lived on through its parking lot. It shaved off about a minute's time to cut through this parking lot to get to my parents' house at the back of the neighborhood, rather than going to the front of the neighborhood first. The church was robbed 3 times in the past year or so. The neighborhood was mostly filled with retirees and families with young children, so it was pretty much dead past 10 at night. I was coming home late, maybe 2 in the morning, from a friend's house that lived about 8 minutes away. As usual, I went through the church parking lot to get to my parents' house. I hadn't seen much of anyone out in the road since I left my friend's house. As I turned into the church parking lot, I saw something under the streetlights that wasn't usually there. As I approached, I realized it was a man, maybe in his late 50s, sitting cross-legged under one of the streetlights. He was wearing a work shirt like a mechanic would wear. As I passed by, he stared me down but didn't make any movement, except for turning his head to keep his stare as I moved by him. I eventually turned into my street and into my driveway. From where the man was sitting, he couldn't necessarily see which house I turned into. I think about how weird the interaction I just had was. While some homeless people were allowed to stay at the church, they mostly slept in the sanctuary, and weren't about at that time of night. It also creeped me out how he didn't break eye contact as I drove by. I settled into my room in the back of the house. Before I went to bed, I checked out my bedroom window to see if that guy had left. When I looked, the man was sitting in the same style, but this time he was under the closest streetlight in the parking lot to my backyard, facing my house. I only peeked through the blinds, so I wasn't sure if he saw me check. I thought about alerting my parents to this guy, but I figured they probably couldn't do anything about it, and would be more mad that I was up this late. I settled into my bed and went through my phone before trying to get to sleep. Maybe 30 minutes had passed since I originally peeped out the window, and I decided to check one more time to put my mind at ease. I slowly opened the blinds one more time, and looked in the direction of the parking lot, and did not see him. As I panned across my backyard, I saw him. He was sitting in that same cross-legged position, except this time he was on top of the picnic table in my backyard, not 10 feet away from me. I quickly let loose of the blinds and froze up for a little bit, thinking about what to do. I wasn't sure that he had seen me, and it was too dark to know for sure if we made eye contact. I quickly walked to my parents' room and woke up my dad and told him there was someone in our backyard. My dad shot up awake and went into our kitchen and found a huge metal flashlight in our junk drawer. He went out to our backyard toward the picnic table but didn't find anyone. I told him the whole story of the guy and what he looked like, and he said it was probably a homeless man. The next day, my dad spotted the preacher from the church next door as he was driving out through the parking lot. He then told him about this guy and described what he looked like, and he said, "Oh, that's Chuck. We've been letting him stay here for the last few nights." The preacher then assured my dad that he would let Chuck know to stay on church grounds and not to disturb the neighbors. The next week, my parents were babysitting my 9-year-old niece between the time she got out of school and my sister got off work. My parents and my niece were growing a vegetable garden in the back corner of their backyard. My niece went out to water the garden and look for any new tomatoes or peppers. When she went out there and started to water the sprouts, she said that a man sprung up from laying down behind our shed. He then began to ask my niece questions like her age, how old she was, where she went to school, etc. She said she answered his questions because she didn't want to be rude, and actually thought it was one of her grandpa, my dad's friends. He then put his hand on her shoulder as he was talking to her, which freaked her out. She told him she had to go to the bathroom, but she promised him she would come back later to play with him. My niece went straight to my mom and told her about the man. Being the only one home and without my dad home, she decided to call the police. The police came out and went in the backyard to confront the man. The police came to my mom and said that he was a homeless man sheltered by the church, and he thought our house was the preacher's, so it was okay to be there. My mom said that it was the same man from the other night wearing a mechanic shirt, Chuck. She told the police about our previous encounter with him, and that she didn't want to press trespassing charges as long as he didn't come back. The police told him to leave and even followed him down the road a little ways. About once a month, my family and friends rent out the back room of a local seafood restaurant to catch up. My mom started to talk to one of my aunt's friends that lives about 3 minutes down the road from us. She told my mom that her young children had found a man in their play structure in their backyard. The man also started asking her kids personal questions and got a little touchy. She called the police on the man, and they said they were going to take him to a shelter on the other side of town. My aunt's friend also said that he was wearing a mechanic's shirt, so without a doubt, it was Chuck. I don't know what Chuck would have done with my niece or the other kids had they been home alone. Maybe he was just a homeless man that was a little too friendly with children. Still, Chuck, let's not meet. 2. I'd like to start by saying that at the age this story took place, I was still incredibly naive. But I would like to think I took this experience and grew from it. I was 16. I had just got my first job at McDonald's, insert eye roll, and I was meeting a bunch of new people through my new job. I loved it at first. I met Van a few weeks into my new job, and he seemed okay, if not a little bit too friendly. But whatever. Everyone tells me you need to be accepting and nice, blah blah blah, and I didn't want to start trouble right off the bat. Anyways, he is always trying to talk to me at work, so much so that he gets in trouble for distracting me. Again, whatever. I think he must not have a lot of friends. He asks for my number, and at this point in my life I have no idea how to say no, so I just give it to him. We text about normal things. He starts to grow on me because he's always been nice even outside of work. A lot of guys take getting numbers as the okay to ask for or send nudes and whatever, but Van hasn't, which I appreciate. At this time in my life, my parents worked late in the night an hour away. I didn't have a car or my license, and we lived in the middle of nowhere. I had been asked to stay late one day. My mom said I could do it if I could get a ride to my grandmother's where my younger siblings already were. I really need money as I'm saving up for a car, so I ask around and Van volunteers. My mom says okay, so we are all good to go. I only stay about 2 hours later, and I ask Van to run me by my house so I can get changed and grab a few things for my overnight stay with my grandma. He says sure, and off we go. When we get there, I try to say, okay, I'll be right back. He asks if we have to get to my grandma's right away, or if maybe we had time for a movie. I reluctantly say, okay. Not because he has made me feel uneasy at this point, but because my younger siblings were heathens, and I knew my grandma needed my help. However, I didn't want to seem rude as he was giving me a ride, completely out of his way, a whole town over. We go inside to my room and I go change in the bathroom, come back, get the movie set up, and I just kinda sit down by him, on my bed, completely alone in my house. We're just sitting there while the movie begins, and he puts his arm around me. In my head, I'm just like, whoa, what? Because in my eyes, he's never even acted like he was into me. As if the seeking me out at work and going out of his way to give me a ride weren't obvious clues, duh. I just kind of hunch over in discomfort, but I don't come right out and tell him to stop because at this point I'm becoming a little uneasy. He's over 6 foot tall and brags about hitting the gym. I'm 5'3" and barely 120 pounds of just fluff. There is no way I'm fighting this guy off. I also don't know why he thinks this is okay, because I had never tried to lead him on or give him any indication I had feelings for him. For whatever reason, Van sees my reaction as an affirmation that I like what's happening, because then this mother hugger leans over and starts kissing me. I am disgusted. I know I can't punch him or otherwise fight, so I do the only thing that makes a reasonable amount of sense. I bite the shit out of his lip to get him off me. He pulls away and has this absolute batshit crazy look in his eye. He says, and I quote, "Biting only makes me go harder." What? So I am in full-blown panic by now. I have absolutely no idea how to get away or where to go. The land we live on is nothing but fields for miles around. He could easily overtake me if I try to run. I truly think I'm about to get raped. A few seconds after he has started attacking my face again, my phone rings. Thank God it was my mother asking where I was. I told her we were just about to leave and looked over at him. He has the most disappointed look on his face. I get off the phone with my mom, and all of a sudden, he is just all smiles. He's completely fine with us leaving, and even helps me with my bag. He takes me directly to my grandma's and drops me off. Before he has even left our street, he is texting me talking about how great our first kiss was, and he has such a good time and all this stuff. I promptly blocked his number and his Facebook. Thankfully, I didn't work at that particular store much longer, and up until I quit, I never saw him again. I heard he quit because he got a new job at a 5-star restaurant. We don't have those where I live. It's a pretty seedy little town surrounded by pretty seedy bigger towns. I realize now that I should have told someone this, but I was so afraid I would somehow get in trouble. I never brought it up to any adults. Anyways, van from work, let's never meet again. 3. This happened earlier last year, and it still fucks me up if I think about it too much. First, a little backstory to explain. I'm a delivery driver for Uber Eats, and have been doing it as a side gig for the past year or so to earn some extra money. Also, I'm a girl. Anyway, yeah, Uber Eats. It's a super chill job, although the pay is definitely not ideal, especially at night. Normally, any pings I get after 10 PM are just shitty fast food orders, to customers where the chances of being tipped are even lower than what they already are, which is low. I would say 2 in 10 people tip on Uber Eats. Whatever. Anyways, yeah, late night deliveries. Rarely profitable, which is why I would barely do them. However, on this night last year, there was a bonus going on. Reach 15 deliveries in a certain time frame to get an extra $75. Music to my ears. When that's the case, late night deliveries rock because there's no traffic and it doesn't matter where you're picking up from. McDonald's, bring on the bonuses. The faster you can get them done, the faster you can go home and knock out. Open roads all the way works for me. I was on a roll and finished my last McD's run at 2:30 in the morning, cashed my bonus and called it a night. For context, this took place in downtown San Diego. Downtown San Diego has fun restaurants and clubs at the core, but as you branch out it gets more seedy. Once you get past 16th Street it gets really sketchy. Lots of homeless camps, the works. I actively try to avoid that area, but in order to get back home and on the freeway, I had to pass through that neighborhood. One more piece of info. I drive a 2002 shitty Ford Focus and nothing's automatic. In order to roll the windows up or down, you have to reach over and crank the lever. Because it's a hassle to roll them up and down manually each time, when I do deliveries usually I just keep both my windows rolled down, because it's easier to pick up and deliver through the windows. This night, fuck me. I had my windows down as usual. I was planning to roll them up before I passed 16th Street, where the homeless camp was, but didn't get that far, as I turned down a side street heading towards the main drag. Up ahead I see a man in one of those orange reflective construction vests standing on the side of the road. There's always some sort of construction going on downtown, and it's pretty common for it to happen at night. So I don't really pay much attention. As I get closer though, the man runs into the middle of the street, waving his arm signaling stop. I start to slow down thinking he's going to direct traffic or reroute me or something. I brake to 10 miles per hour, then 5, leaving distance trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. He breaks out into a jog towards my car and then stops directly in front of it, blocking me and my car from moving forward. Fuck. Immediate unease. This is weird. I'm wishing my windows were rolled up. It's 3 AM on a dark street and there's not a soul around except me and this dude. People talk about fight or flight, and I've always wondered how I would react in a situation that warranted a similar response. Now I know, my reaction is to fucking freeze. Because as I was slowing down it hit me 5 seconds later than it should have. This guy is not a construction worker. He has on a hard hat and a vest and the creepiest smile I've ever seen in my life. At first I thought he was just smiling to be friendly. but smiling to acknowledge someone longer than a few seconds is super unnerving. Try it right now. Count to 5 in your head while grinning and you'll see what I mean. That's what this guy was doing. Now that he's in front of me, I can tell he's homeless. That or just, I don't know. Older guy, I would guess 60s. But homelessness has a way of making everyone look old, so who knows really? Fuck, he's just staring at me, fuck! Wild-eyed and smiling, all teeth. Honestly, his smile and mannerisms. The best way I can describe it is Twisty from American Horror Story. Google him if you want to, no pressure if you don't. Literally though, this guy looked insane. I obviously should have reversed, but my brain was panicking, and I didn't think that fast. I'm frozen in my car, thinking, this is how I die. This whole time he's not saying anything, just leering. Then, like a ninja, he jumps onto the hood of my car and slams his fists against my hood. I am frozen in terror just watching this guy. He starts pounding on the hood of my car, crawling around on his hands and knees, not saying anything, just crawling and staring at me. That was the most terrifying part. He never broke eye contact once during all of this, and he never stopped grinning. The thought of my windows being open made me want to throw up, but at the same time breaking eye contact and moving to roll them up felt scarier. Like if I made any sudden moves or looked away, he would try to come inside the car. He never said a word. I think it would have been less scary if he said something, but he didn't. Just pounded his fists on the car and stared. In all reality, this whole encounter probably lasted all of 15 seconds, but it felt like days. I am freaking out, and before I can gain the sense to do anything remotely intelligent, I see headlights in my rearview mirror coming up behind me from down the street. This man sees them too, and in an instant he jumps off my car and breaks off into a run behind me, heading towards the new car. Jesus Christ. I floor it and don't look back until I'm halfway home on the freeway, and at this point it's all adrenaline. For a long time after that, I stopped delivering at night. I sure as hell don't go to that section of downtown anymore. I take the longer route home, and I don't drive with the windows down at night if it's in an area even remotely run down. What I realized from this is how naive I can be to just automatically trust and obey someone just because they have a uniform. Like I didn't even question slowing down at first. Even though the situation was sketchy as fuck. The opposite, actually. In my mind, I was comforted by the fact that somebody trustworthy was on the road. Subconscious thoughts went like, oh nice, a public servant doesn't want me making a wrong turn. By the time I stopped, it would have already been too late if this guy wanted to attack me. I shudder thinking about it. I calmed down eventually by reassuring myself that this was probably just a crazy dude on drugs who meant no harm. Which hopefully that's the case. And for my own peace of mind, I'm going to believe that it is. But what got to me is the fact that this guy was dressed as a road worker on the road, and deliberately behaving at first, in a way that led me to believe he was one. Why else wear that get-up? And why are you trying to pull cars over, just to freak people out? I don't know the answer, and I'm glad I didn't find out what it was that he wanted from me. Fucking yikes. So yeah, construction man, wherever you are, let's not meet. Oh, and as a PSA, obviously this rarely happens, but just be aware, if a serial killer wanted to get you alone at night, what a smart way to get someone to stop for you. Literally just tell them to stop. I watch too much true crime. Edit. Yeah, I'm an idiot, trust me, I know, for delivering alone that late, not reacting sooner, calling 911 immediately. I did after to report what happened, nothing came of it, other than the PD saying it was likely someone on drugs or crazy, not realizing the gravity of the situation, and not getting the fuck out of there the second I felt something was wrong. I think that's partially why I wrote this, feeling like a victim, and that's stupid in hindsight. That vulnerability was horrible. I never thought I would react that way. Trust me, if I were reading this story I would roll my eyes, but fear is a very real thing, and fear can be paralyzing. The whole encounter happened so fast it was over before I could fully comprehend what was happening, or what could have been. I realized I took safety and security for granted. Before this, I rarely thought of myself as an easy target. I'm 6 feet tall, and even though I'm a woman, I just didn't think of myself as particularly vulnerable, which is stupid. But I've realized I was definitely viewing the world through rose-colored lenses. A few people mentioned buying a gun for concealed carry. I totally think it's a great idea, for most people. I cannot, and do not trust myself with a firearm, because of my history with depression and suicidal ideation, but I'm all for it. I have mace on my keyring and a taser. Mainly, I don't do stupid dangerous shit at night alone anymore. Stay safe, everyone, and stay prepared, because I certainly wasn't when I needed to be. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 286. Thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Okay, let me think. This is the alternate week, isn't it? So, no scary stories on... No subscriber stories on Tuesday, but I will be doing something else. I haven't decided what yet, but it might be more retail, might be more revenge, or I might do something else entirely. We'll see. Okay, and with that, I think I'm going to go and have a late dinner and a bath. I'm feeling a bit achy, so time for a bath. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.